Alright YouTube, so we are back already with some Final Fantasy VII Remake news. I did a video literally yesterday talking about how the news is few and far between, and here we are a day later, and there's news for the game. What we have today is a Famitsu article or interview. It has Nomura, it has Katase, and maybe some other developers, and they kind of talk about Remake Part 2. Apparently Remake Part 2 is already in full development as of right now. Nomura also comments on wanting to release Remake Part 2 as soon as possible, and there's also the possibility that we're going to learn how many parts there's going to be sometime in the future. Which is obviously a question a lot of us have had for quite a long time now, because we don't know exactly what we're diving into. Is it 2 or 3 games? Is it 5 or 6 games? Is it 10 games? We don't know. And the Famitsu translations come to us, of course, from Itai Kimochi over on Twitter, or Aubrey. This time, however, it's not me stalking her Twitter looking for information. There's actually news articles on Google and stuff that were citing her as the source because she is the one doing the translations. So we're just going to hop right into it as usual. This is a tweet she dropped super early this morning that says, interesting bits from a 15-page interview, so it's a massive interview, on FF7R that's released in tomorrow's Famitsu. The next installment is already in full development. They couldn't go further with Madame M massage scene, otherwise ratings would go up. And Roche was supposed to have a battle in Chapter 14. The last little bit was interesting to me because I definitely felt like there was supposed to be another fight with Roche in the game, because the one-on-one fight you have with him with Cloud takes place in the 3rd, 4th, 5th chapter, something like that, super early in the story, and then you never see him again. It's not like Cloud killed him at the end of their fight or anything. He kind of actually helps you guys escape by using his bike to knock all the Shinder soldiers away. He even says this right here after the fight, "I'll see you on the road, my friend," which to me I thought was foreshadowing or implying another fight, and there apparently was a plan to fight for Chapter 14, but I guess they just didn't put it in. I actually ended up liking this character more than I thought I would. He seemed annoying from the trailers. I was actually looking forward to the next fight, but it just never happened. Then going further with the Madame M massage thing and that increasing the rating of the game, the only thing I can think of is her, massaging other parts of Cloud's body. Which, by the way, Square Enix, I would absolutely love to see that in explicit detail. And hearing that they wanted to go further with the scene but couldn't because it would increase the rating of the game just makes you wish all the more for an M-rated Final Fantasy VII. It kind of makes me think of Logan versus the X-Men movies. Hugh Jackman always killed it as the Wolverine, but when he got to be the Wolverine and Logan, whereas rated R, completely different thing. So right here in the interview, Nomura's asked, when will the next installment be released, to which he replies, "We know that everyone wants the next installment quickly. We would also like to deliver it as soon as possible. Since we were also able to see the line of quality from the first installment, we hope to make the next installment even better in quality that can make for an even better experience. We would like to get it out as soon as possible, so please wait for it. I think we can clearly convey the direction when we officially announce the next installment." So the last part can be interpreted in 2 different ways. Some people think that it could possibly be him just talking about the story, conveying the direction of the remake story when they announce the next installment. And the other interpretation is maybe them announcing how many parts there's going to be for the remake project, since he's talking about conveying the direction of the remake project as a whole. So it's kind of hard to know which one. And now that I'm actually reading it and kind of interpreting it for myself as opposed to, going off of what articles are saying, it could also just be talking about the release date or release window of the second game. Because the question is, when is the next installment coming out? So his answer is, we want to get it out as soon as possible, but whenever they reveal the game with a teaser trailer or an actual trailer, they can more convey the direction of when it's going to come out, as in the release date. I think that's actually what makes the most sense. Also, just scrolling her timeline on Twitter, I came across this quote from Toriyama that says, "There's a very high chance that Roche will be reappearing in the next installment." So kind of more or less confirmation that Roche will be in Part 2, which isn't really a surprise. We have another interesting quote here from Nomura about Aerith and the Whispers that says, "Characters are able to see the Whispers once they come into contact with Aerith. As for when Aerith starts seeing them, that is something I cannot answer at this time." So I think he's kind of hinting at a flashback of sorts, possibly in Part 2, maybe in a later game, but more than likely Part 2, of when she first started seeing them, maybe as a kid, teenager, maybe even as an adult. The only thing I question is, while we do see in game that people that touch Aerith can sometimes see the Whispers, like Red 13, even in the scene right here in the background, the gameplay, he talks about it. But we see in the game that Rufus can see the Whispers near the end of the game, but Song can't. Yet Song has actually physically touched Aerith. He's grabbed her, he's the one that kidnapped her, he's seen her throughout the years and shit. And we never ever see Rufus come in contact with her at all, but he can see the Whisperers. Maybe there's a reason for that, maybe it'll be explained in a future installment, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense because we know that Song has actually come into contact with Aerith. We then have a quote from Katase that says, "The new story of Final Fantasy VII has only just begun." And the thing is, I've said before in the past multiple times, I'm all for the new stuff. I don't mind having new things happen, not knowing what to expect, being surprised. I love the absolute hell out of that, because it wouldn't be as fun to just be playing the same story over again, right? We played through FF7 how many times now? I've said before, I would have bought that. I would have played that. I'd have paid the $60 if they wanted to do a one-to-one remake, but I like having new things happen. My issue and my gripe here is that half the time in interviews, or most of the time in interviews, they're claiming that they're not changing much. It's still the FF7 that you know. But then you have this quote right here where he's like saying the new story has only just begun, implying that there's going to be a lot of new stuff in the future. It's like, well, which one is it? Is it the same original FF7 or is it new shit? It's almost like they can't decide how they want to market the game. It's like they want to ride both waves, sit on both sides of the fence. There's new stuff, but it's not new stuff. Like we're not changing anything, but also we're changing a lot of shit. And as we've seen with the first game, while it felt very similar to the Midgar segment from the original game, is very similar actually. The story is drastically goddamn different. You can't deny that. The last thing I want to talk about for now is Hamaguchi talking about obviously the game being in development, having to wait a little bit for it, but also him briefly commenting on the world outside of Midgar. Hamaguchi says, the first installment of the FF7 Remake project was centered around Midgar, and we strived to recreate a Midgar that you could not experience in the original story, showcasing the hustle and bustle of the lives of the people there as well as the environment. The next installment will then shift to other parts of the world since the characters have escaped from Midgar in the story. We hope to create a game that allows you to experience the charm and allure of the world of FF7 from the various lives of the people as well as the environments that will be present. Production for the next installment is already underway, and our team is putting their all into the advancement of the game. Although there is still a wait, we hope that you can look forward to what we have in store. So yeah, they definitely did a great job with Midgar in this first game. While obviously I think a lot of us would have liked to explore more of Midgar, go to some sectors we've never been to before, at least every sector we visited that was from the original game felt distinct and different from each other. And that's what I'm hoping for with the sequels, at least when it comes to like the cities and the towns. Like I hope Calm is very different from Midgar, and Calm and Midgar are very different from Junon, and Costa del Sol is very different. Even in the original game, they felt distinct. Calm is sort of like a smaller village town. Junon's obviously a more modern city. Costa del Sol is like a beach resort type of town or city or whatever you want to call it. So they definitely felt distinct in the original game, but hopefully when it comes to the remake, they really ramp that up and make it like on level with Midgar to maybe a smaller degree. Not every single location can be built to the degree that they did in Midgar, otherwise we're going to be here for a very long time. We're all going to die of old age before they finish the remake project. Anyways, dudes, for now, that's pretty much it on what she has translated on her Twitter that I felt like talking about. It is a big interview. Again, it's like 15 pages. She's going to be putting out more over the next couple days, probably. There is other stuff on her Twitter if you want to check it out, like polls, like popular characters, enemies that left an impression on you, memorable scenes, things like that are in the Famitsu interview. Obviously, I didn't want to cover that. We're really here for news and information for the games. I don't really care about polls and things like that. Who's the most popular character? Who do you think it is? Take a guess. Is it Cloud? Of course it's Cloud. So, of course, her Twitter will be linked in the description below if you want to go check some stuff out. And obviously, as the days go on, as she's translating more of this interview, and the interview actually comes out tomorrow on the 22nd, if there's anything else we're talking about, we will, of course, cover it. By the way, my dudes, of course, that'll wrap up the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you guys already want to see more Final Fantasy VII Remake content. Turn on my notifications. Follow me on Twitter at @dashingdavid, at my Discord. Links to my social networks are in the description. And in the outro. Later, guys.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Rogaine, or leave it like Cobain.